Development in Pakistan. Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif has appointed General Asim Munir as the new Chief of Army Staff, and he has also appointed General Sahir Shamshad Mirza as the new Chairman, Joint Chiefs of Staff Committee. Earlier, the Information Minister Maryam Aurangzeb tweeted that the Premier made the choice exercising his constitutional authority, as well as the Defence Minister said that the matter had been decided according to the law and the Constitution. The Prime Minister earlier had very important meetings, including the meeting of the cabinet members today, and also the last day, a very important meeting regarding this appointment with the parliamentary leaders of the coalition parties, in which all the leaders posed their confidence and trust in the decision of the Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif regarding this particular appointment. And now the President has also approved the summary sent by the Prime Minister for these appointments, and the latest media reports also suggest that Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif has met both the new appointees and has also given them the best wishes for their future endeavors at these top slots of the Pakistan Armed Forces. And to talk more about this particular important appointment at these two top slots, we are honored to have been joined by an esteemed panel of guests in the studio. And first of all, Mr. Qaiser Sheikh, he is a member of the National Assembly from PML-N. He is joining us in the studio. Mr. Sheikh, thank you very much for your time, for being on Views on News. We really appreciate that. And also we are joined by Dr. Tughral Yamin. He is a senior analyst. Dr. Yamin, thank you very much for your time also, for being on Views on News. And we are also honored to have been joined by Dr. Abid Abbasi. He is political analyst. Dr. Abbasi, thank you very much for your time, for being on Views on News. Let me begin the discussion with you, Mr. Sheikh. Now, these appointments, as have been done by the Prime Minister according to the law and the Constitution, speaks volumes about the democratic practices of the incumbent Prime Minister. What's your take regarding that?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Mr. Jawad, as you mentioned, there was a political turmoil since 1 month. Speculation was there that who will be appointed army chief. And Mr. Imran Khan speculated, and he mentioned a number of times that there should be a merit in the appointment of army chief. Now, everyone has seen that according to the merit of the case, and the Prime Minister had the prerogative, and he appointed most two senior generals who were in the list, and number 1 and number 2 according to the seniority also, and the most competent in his opinion, and the cabinet also approved that. So it was I feel a simple case, and I feel that unnecessary hype had been given on this case. And in other countries also, there is an appointment of army chief. This is a normal practice. Every 3 months Pakistan has to appoint army chief and joint chief. So I think it's very welcoming. I fully appreciate, congratulate the new appointees, and I feel it will prove to be fruitful for the Pakistan, particular for the economic prosperity, because the confidence will prevail. The turmoil since long time, that will cease. And it's a normal practice, and I think that Prime Ministers have done rightly, and he took advice and approval of all cabinet and other relevant persons. And I feel that Imran Khan unnecessarily made hype of this case.
Right. Dr. Yamin, now it speaks volumes about the coalition government, which is led by Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif, about that very principle of meritocracy and appointing the top 2 for these top slots who were there in seniority.
Tehami sahab, I totally agree with you. I think the political leadership at this time has gone through the correct motions. They have made consultations among themselves, and they have not sprung any surprises. These were the 2 senior most generals, and they have been awarded the slots as per the Prime Minister's judgment, who should be the Army Chief and who should be the Chairman Joint Chief of Staffs Committee. Both these 2 gentlemen have had stellar careers in the military. most lieutenant generals have good careers. They don't just rise to the top because they have not performed well during their military careers. Both had very good careers. General Asim Munir was a Sword of Honor holder from his course. Syed Shamshad Mirza Sahab also was a very good soldier. I'm sure the other lieutenant generals are also very, very good. I have no doubts about their competence. But the good thing this time is that one, there was consultation amongst the parties, the coalition parties, and secondly, they did not bypass seniority. Usually, we have seen in the past that the political leadership have placed their chiefs of their choice sometimes people way down the ladder.
So the democratic values this time around have been upheld in letter and spirit. Dr. Abbasi, your view regarding the appointment of these two senior most people in the line for these top 2 slots.
Thank you very much, Tehami sir, for your invitation. As the gentleman said already, that it was, a constitutional prerogative of the chief executive of the country, constitutionally elected prime minister of the country. He has utilized this constitutional prerogative or his right to appoint the senior most generals of Pakistan Army to the top slot. Congratulations to both the gentlemen. But I wish to add that this time unnecessarily, as Qaiser Sheikh has mentioned already, that the whole politics of Imran Khan, the former prime minister of this country, and the PTI chief is based on chaos and turmoil and putting pressure on the institutions and getting the sit-ins in the capital. He remained 126 days before. And unfortunately, this time, a non-issue was made a very controversial issue by him. Rather, he has tried to make that issue a very controversial issue. And on social media, this is a new phenomena, and so many bots and so many, the PTI supporters, the YouTubers, they have created a mess on the social media, and they have launched too many stories about, unfortunately, about the institution of the army, that there is somewhat, God forbid, there is some split. There are some people who are supporting Mr. A or Mr. B or Mr. C. This has nothing to do with the politics. The institution of army has, it's a very exclusive, a very well-determined constitutional role in the country to play, which they are playing. Unfortunately, we have seen in the recent past, as General Bajwa today, the outgoing chief of the army staff, has mentioned so many things in his address that some of the, if we go back into the past, every institution of the country and individuals made mistakes, and those mistakes should not be, repeated. And if the institution of armed forces, that is perhaps, and obviously that is actually the most powerful institution in the country, most disciplined institution in the country, and that institution has now very openly decided not to take part, any sort of part in the politics. This is very much appreciable, and if the institution has decided so, in past, if some people from the institution has been taking some sort of part in the politics, but if the institution has very clearly, and this has been stressed, this has been emphasized by the General Bajwa, the outgoing chief, that this is not an individual's decision, but the decision of the institution, that they won't take part in the politics. And if they have decided so, I think Imran Khan particularly and rest of the politicians should not take any sort of action, should not carry on any sort of action to drag them into the politics. That would never be in favor of the country.
But finally, with these appointments, all those speculations and the rumor mongering, as you have already mentioned, have died down completely.
Of course, those were rumors, those were created, those were fabricated, because we have not seen in the past, there is no norms like this in the institution of the country. There must be some debates while the corps commanders meetings are taking place. There must be some debates on every sort of platforms within the army. When once a decision has been taken, that decision is actually the final decision, and they send a summary, and they have, shown a very much, a broader kind of attitude to send 6 people to the Prime Minister office, and the Prime Minister has, without going any controversy, furthermore, he has chosen the senior most generals of the Pakistan Army as the Chief of the Army Staff and the Joint Chief of Staff Committee's chairman.
Right, Mr. Sheikh, yesterday we saw the outgoing Army Chief, General Qamar Bajwa, in his farewell address, highlighted very important things. One of those was that he's also called on the political stakeholders to reflect on their attitudes, as well as the army had started its catharsis. And he also emphasized the need for the restoration of the political stability in the country. Speaks volumes about that the army as an institution has decided for once and all that it's not going to interfere in the politics of the country, and the political stakeholders at the same time really look into what they need to carry along.
Yes, Mr. Bajwa, when he is retiring, he categorically mentioned that army has nothing to do with the politics. And I think unnecessary speculation and rumor mongering and these theories have been speculating in the market. You see, I'm a businessman. I know that with each rumor, there's a difference in business, in export and import contracts, in stock exchange values. So I don't know unnecessary speculative and theories which are unbased, which has no base.
Which happen to be the detrimental for the overall national interest and overall state of economy in the country.
Our economy, the main subject we should emphasize and which we should discuss is that of economy, because we are facing problems here, and there are difficulties, and this turmoil, I don't know what are our politicians doing, who are having this rumor mongering. Now, for example, this long march at this crucial stage, at this, what is the significance of this long march on 26th of March, and then to Rawalpindi? What is the basis? And then Khan Sahib have repeatedly been asking that the army chief should be on merit. It means all the 6 generals who are all at merit, and who no one has made any allegations against them, and either he should mention that to whom he feels that he is not merit, he is not on merit. So unnecessary speculation and asking his followers to spread these rumors, this is not in the benefit of the economy of Pakistan. Khan Sahib, I tell you that since many days there has been marches from each and every city, and unnecessary people are concentrating, instead of doing business or doing their own whatever their activity are, they are just watching television again and again every day, and this is not happening in other countries. This is unique in Pakistan. So this has hampered our economy. Now I think this drama should have a drop scene, and there should not be more discussions on this matter, because the right person has been appointed,
right.
And everyone, even I think in the institution, and it is unanimous decision
Exactly.
by the institution and the political leadership. Only Khan Sahib, if in case he had any apprehension, he should clearly come out now. What is his point?
Right.
Whom he feels that he is not patriotic, or whom he feels it is not according to the merit. So
Right.
without naming any person, he is just saying, just general talks. And then 26th, he has fixed the date for the long march. What is the purpose of the march? He mentioned 2 things. First, that the army chief should be on merit. Number 2, the election should be in time. Now, I don't know, these things are not significant at this point. The second point, that election timing, I meant it is already fixed. You see, it depends upon the elected majority of the people in the National Assembly. He has a lot of people. He himself deliberately went out of the parliament,
Right.
out of the National Assembly. Now we again invite him. come into the National Assembly, talk there. Why you talk only to in the streets and to the public and on the media and the social media? What is the benefit of it? What outcome it is getting out of it? And our economy, I tell you, the sliding day by day. Our exports are not increasing, and because of this and the wrong policies by PTI, I categorically say, because I know them, they should come forward to have some development, for some advices and some suggestion which could make things more.
Your point is
yes.
Your point
more
is well
developed,
taken.
more developed. It has nothing to do with it.
Let me bring in Dr. Yamin also. The coalition party's leadership has repeatedly been saying that this particular issue of appointment of the chief of army staff shouldn't be politicized, but on the contrary, we see that the politics of agitation, as Mr. Sheikh has also alluded to, that PTI chief Imran Khan was trying to politicize this. So how detrimental do you think it had been over the number of months for the overall state of economy in particular as well, and for the overall national interest of Pakistan?
Tehami sir, whenever you do things which bring the life to a halt, it's detrimental. I'm a professor in a university. Every time there is a march, every time there's a dharna, every time there's a bandh, it affects my university. The students don't come, people don't come, people don't want to work. I'm getting calls, sir, should we come tomorrow to the university? I said, you come to the university tomorrow morning. But since chaos has been created,
So of course the road blockages.
Yeah, across. My university is located on Sharia Kashmir. You call it Srinagar Highway or whatever you call it. We are the first victims. Our university comes to a close, and
people from all segments of life are affected.
I'm speaking because I teach. Everybody is affected. The daily wage earner is affected the most. He does not get a regular salary like I do. If he doesn't work for a day or 2 days, he will not be able to feed his children. So anybody who creates conditions which are detrimental to the normal running or functioning of the country, he is doing harm to the country. He or she, whoever he or she is.
Despite there are designated places.
There are designated places, and plus, as the worthy gentleman sitting next to me is saying, all these things should be discussed in the parliament. Unfortunately, street agitation has become the norm. Parliament has become useless. Then why are we having elections? Why are we getting him elected as MNA? We don't need him as an MNA. If he doesn't come and sit in the assembly, he doesn't participate in debates, if he doesn't do legislation that would benefit a common man like me, then why should
that requires the will of all the stakeholders to come
that requires and you see, you are putting the entire system into doubt. There's a question mark now. I don't know whether I should be voting next time for anybody if this is what the politicians will be doing next if they don't come into majority. This has become a norm. You see, any party, his party or her party, if you don't make the majority, you start agitating against the incumbent government, whoever comes into power by hook or by crook. Okay, and then what happens is that instead of working for the betterment of the country, the political party in power is forever has its guards up, and they are looking for survival, so that they should be able to complete 2 years or 3 years or 4 years in power. In parliamentary democracy, there's no fixed term. You can be kicked out any time you lose majority, any time you lose the conference of the parliament or the people. There are no fixed terms. It's not the US, it's the Westminster style of democracy. So anybody who causes harm, anybody who does not, after being elected and after getting pay, he does not come to the assembly, sit there, why should the taxpayer money be paid to him or her for services that he or she is not delivering to me? Why should they be given cushy lounges, apartments in the parliamentary lodges?
Very important. Dr. Abbasi, your take regarding this point, which has been mentioned by Dr. Yamin.
Dr. Yamin has very categorically elaborated that this is not only creating chaos for the common masses living in the cities where those dharnas and sit-ins every day, that has become mantra of Imran Khan. He has started his politics by using the tool of agitation. Even ironically, when he was in power, even then he was holding those big public jalsas and shouting against his political opponents and giving them threats that I will put these thieves and these goons into the jails and blah, 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 despite having somebody should have told him that you are the Prime Minister and the institutions are under you, and if somebody has done something wrong, put him in the jail. Why you are raising such kind of useless tall claims and slogans, mere slogans, having no actions in them? And even today his politics, but perhaps we should be optimistic enough, but he has left with no rooms to put those people, his supporters, into the streets the way very maturely the political parties of the country in the government unanimously or with consensus. That is the essence of democracy, that everybody should take into the consideration. Power should not be exercised by one person or a group of person, but it should be. But as Dr. Yamin very rightly said, that Parliament is actually the real forum, the basic forum, the ultimate forum, that's a sacred forum for the problems of the country to be discussed, to be solved, to make legislation over there. Unfortunately, during his tenure, previous 5 years from 13 to 18, Imran Khan remained on street, and he submitted at that time his resignation, his party, but later on they came back. They have been getting salaries and benefits from the poor people of this country, the public exchequer of the poor masses of this country. And then now he is contesting elections from 8 constituencies at a time, but he is not sitting in the Parliament. For the sake of what you are contesting elections by spending the public exchequer's hefty amounts? That should be there, because we are a nation which is unfortunately a very poor nation. More than 35% people of this country, that amounts about 8 crore. 80 million people are living below the poverty line, and the leaders are making such dramas, and we are getting Hakiki Azadi from Americans and then taking U-turns, talking to one TV channels abroad something else, talking to another TV channel something else, raising slogans somewhere something else, in the other platform something else. Or this drama, I think, should have been ended. And people of Pakistan who are supporting him, they should also know that if the country is smoothly processing towards it's a logical end, and people of Pakistan having some hopes that they should get something, Imran Khan should come in the Parliament. He should play his constitutional role. That is very important, and he should come in the Parliament.
Well, Dr. Abbasi, your point is well taken. I'll have to take a short break, and we'll be resuming the discussion from here. For that, stay tuned.
Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch and other rights bodies impressed up on India to stop criminalizing work of Khurram Parvez and other human rights defenders. Khurram Parvez was arrested by India's National Investigation Agency under Draconian Law Unlawful Activities Prevention Act on 22 November last year from Srinagar. Khurram Parvez has been at the forefront to highlight human rights violations by Indian troops in Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir. Targeting human rights activists in Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir is part of Modi government's brutal policy. Modi regime must be held accountable for its continued crackdown against human rights organizations and activists in Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir.
Welcome back to Views on News. We are discussing with our panelists the two very important appointments regarding the top slots in the Armed Forces of Pakistan, the Chief of Army Staff and Chairman Joint Chiefs of Staff Committee. We are joined in the studio by Mr. Qaiser Sheikh, Dr. Tughral Yamin and Dr. Abid Abbasi. Mr. Sheikh, when we talk about this politics of agitation, as you were already mentioning, it has no proper outcome in vision, and it has been detrimental to the economy also. So with these appointments, do you think there is a likelihood of some sort of stability coming to the economic outlook of the country also?
I'm very much optimistic. You see, our government has been lenient. Our government has not taken the stern action. There is no logic of long marches, and just if they want to have some protest, they could select some place and should be collected over there. You see, now the new leadership of establishment is there. General Bajwa yesterday mentioned that enough is enough, and those are the words, I think. It should be a clear signal. And our Prime Minister and government, our government, I would now urge upon them that this is not in the benefit of the country. If they continue like that, it will hamper the economy. I know very well, I am a representative of business community, I know how much loss is being incurred on that. You see, I remember even 50 years ago, when I visited Tokyo, Ginza area of Japan, there was a protest I saw there. And when there was a red light, all that protest stopped. And they then again started when there was a green light. So what is it in Pakistan? I'm talking about 50 years ago. Now even after 50 years, shouldn't we learn the manners? This is no way that just to ruin everything and stop people going to their schools or colleges or hospitals, and just because this is the will of the people, this is the independence of their opinion. It is no way. And I think now the saner element should prevail. Otherwise, our country will go already deteriorating. And I know the growth is not there. There has been flood losses, and we should work all out now. All of us should make more effort, utilize each and every hour to work, and not making any speculative rumors. You see, I'm telling you that no market, even the investor is not interested to invest in Pakistan. People are going abroad. If we will not allow them to work and to give them opportunity, so this will happen. And our young generation is really, I talk to them, being a representative. I have been contesting elections since last 30 years, and I know each and every area of Pakistan. I have been going to many places. So people, particularly young generation, they feel there is no opportunity of doing business or making investment in Pakistan. Direct foreign investment, you see, in India, COVID was much intense than Pakistan. Then there was last year $44 billion direct foreign investment in India, and in Pakistan $1.5 billion. So without having direct foreign investment and without enhancing our export, we can't develop.
And for that, we need political stability in the country. Dr. Yamin, when we talk about Pakistan's woes when it had been hit with devastating floods most recently, Foreign Minister Bilawal Bhutto Zardari, in one of his addresses, said when Pakistan was hit by COVID-19 pandemic, the opposition stood along and beside the Prime Minister of that time, Mr. Imran Khan, and now it was incumbent upon him to also stand with the government in order to provide relief to the flood-affected people in the flood devastated areas. Also, don't you think there should have been realization among the top ranks of the opposition that they should have joined hands with the government in order to provide relief to the flood affected people?
Tehami sahab, in times of war, in times of natural disasters, the nation is supposed to be united. The leadership is supposed to be united. You cannot be fighting amongst yourself. Unfortunately, that sense of responsibility is non-existent. I think what happened to us this summer, rainfalls of biblical proportions, almost one half of your country was drowned in waters, waterborne diseases, women about to give birth, chaos all over because of this natural disaster. It meant that you had to put your energies and resources together to fight it, not to fight among yourselves. So I think when you do that, you are being unfaithful to your country. It's bad. It's very, very bad. I think even if my neighbor is not my friend, and if he's in trouble, then it's my moral duty and obligation to help him or her, not to fight with him at that moment in time. So what would people in Sindh or Balochistan or southern Punjab be thinking that this is the plight that has befallen us. We are dying of starvation, of hunger, of our crops have been destroyed, our livestock has been destroyed, and they are fighting among themselves. This shows political immaturity. So without stability, without political stability, your country cannot move forward. This is very, very clear.
Dr. Abbasi, your take regarding the sense of realization, standing up with the government in the time of crisis when the entire country, over 33 million people have been hit by the devastating floods this time around. Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf went for the politics of agitation. Don't you think they have stood by the government at that time of crisis?
Unfortunately, you are expecting a thing from a very wrong person. When Imran Khan became Prime Minister of Pakistan, the present Prime Minister of Pakistan, Shehbaz Sharif, he was opposition leader at that time. And he stood up in the parliament and assured him that let's make a new beginning. If you would go for a charter of economy, as we have gone for a charter of democracy, we will support you, we will definitely support you for the sake of the people of this country. We have seen, as you mentioned in your question, that Bilawal Bhutto Zardari, the PPP chairman, who said that if when the pandemic was here, the COVID-19 pandemic was here, by the way, we have observed the only government which has been seen by the same people of this country working for the betterment of the people to fight that pandemic effectively. That was the same government. We have not seen that much zeal and zest by Usman Buzdar led Punjab government. We have not seen that much effectiveness by the Mahmood Khan led KP government, similarly in Balochistan. But at that time the opposition did not create any hurdle in the way of the government for the sake of the betterment of the people of their country, because we know, we should keep in mind this thing, that the 2018 elections, that was very much controversial elections when Imran Khan came into power. The Bilawal Bhutto Zardari, you mentioned in your question, who from very first day has been using the term selected for Imran Khan. But despite that fact that on one side they are considering that government a product of faulty elections, elections which were maneuvered, quote unquote, according to them, even then they supported the government in the time of hard waters. But unfortunately, Imran Khan, when the people of Pakistan were suffering that flood, that is the historic flood, about 1/3 population of the country is affected by that calamity, or their livelihood almost 40% people in rural areas, they have lost their animals, their crops, and that would also affect that would definitely create a food deficiency in the country. We God forbid, will have to spend hefty amounts to import the food grains from other countries, because we have faced that. On one hand, the government and the foreign minister and the prime minister, they are striving, they are traveling across the world to convince the people that this is a natural calamity and caused by the environmental hazards caused by the industrialization by the big country, and they should take their burden, and the world is responding so positively. Here, on that very crucial time, that very critical time, Imran Khan was holding jalsas in those areas. He was not bothering to help and support the people. He has set up a fund, and the PTI people on social media, and even PTI officially has said that about 5 billion rupees were raised by Imran Khan to help and support the flood affected people. But we have not seen any sort of concrete or practical way where those amount was spent.
Dr. Abbasi, your point is well taken. Mr. Sheikh, you already mentioned the second demand of Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf chairman happens to be the early elections. What the government is thinking right now, because there are certain points which have been raised by Mr. Ahsan Iqbal as well, that the census results are also awaited. It would take time, and it is the prerogative of the incumbent government whether to announce an early election or not, or to complete that tenure. So what exactly at the moment the government is thinking, and if the PTI continues to go on for the long march and the politics of agitation, what could be the possible solution to that?
In my opinion, there is no possibility of earlier election. Because you see, people have elected, for example, people elected me for 5 years. I have to deliver within that period. In no country I have seen that the assembly or the parliament vanishes before the period expires. You see, the government changes, Now, for example, in England, last 2 months, 3 government changes. But the House of Commons is same. So this is no possibility that the 5-year period has to be completed. It is prerogative of the government, or otherwise there could be, government can be changed with some vote of no confidence. And moreover, I tell you, this phenomena, social media phenomena that Mr. Khan is very popular, I deny on that. Since 30 years, I have contested 6 elections. Now next election will be my 7th one. I am very close to the people. On 14th August, I just invited people on Independence Day. You can 10 to 15,000 people from 10 a.m. in the morning to the next 4 a.m. next day. People gathered with me just on my call. So this is no criteria that he calls that they come to Pindi. There are 250 million people of Pakistan. If 1 or 2 lakh people gathered somewhere, there is no criterion. And I fully feel that people understand, they realize that he is not making any development for the people, he is doing nothing for the people. What he did in 3.5 years, but he can't tell, he can't describe anything. He's just making allegation, chor, dakus, otherwise he has nothing to do. And how can he say chor, daku while he himself is selling the Tosha Khana gifts, and we people, just I have given 1 crore rupees to the flood affected. So he is just asking us chor, daku, and he is Sadiq Amin. So these things people understand now.
So Dr. Tughral, Yamin, what's your take regarding, is it really a good idea at this point in time when the country is faced with so many crises, and especially when we talk about such a huge chunk of population has been hit with the devastating floods, is it a good idea to call for an early election this time around?
Elections is a very expensive exercise, and it should not be taken very lightly. Yes, elections can be held if the government, this government feels, the current government, his government feels that they cannot deliver, then they can say, okay, we will call early election. It depends on them, not on me. I want delivery. I want him to deliver.
But what about holding an early election at this point when there are so many crises the country is faced with, especially when there, as you already mentioned, the electoral process is such a large exercise that calls for such a huge finance also.
For me, it's immaterial.
If this time you hold early election, then what about next time? For example, elections are held, then maybe 6 months later, the party which is in opposition, they again come and march to Islamabad. Then you will arrange another election. What is the criterion?
This phenomenon should
not be on the basis of public pressure, not on street agitation. Yeah. I think there should be some legislation. I would request if there should be some legislation against these kind of long marches which are not beneficial for the country. Yes, you can call early elections. If they feel they can call for early elections.
And if he comes to, if their party comes to parliament, they have opportunity, talk to us. We can sit together. Politicians always sit together to find out some way out. But this is not the way just to force.
If there is a crisis, then comes the way out. There is no crisis. If Imran Khan is not in power, there should be new elections.
But
and if Imran Khan is in power.
At this point in time, when there are economic wars and Pakistan is actually looking forward to the international community in order to assist when it comes to dealing with the devastating impacts of floods in particular, is it a good idea to call for an early election?
Why the early elections? How can you guarantee that new elections and the new government, if you are disrupting, if the Shehbaz Sharif and the present government is making some sort of deals with the friend of Pakistan and making some sort of arrangements with those countries who are supporting Pakistan, this is not the time. You know that when Imran Khan was in power, Bilawal Bhutto Zardari and everybody was asking that there should be a fresh elections because the present government failed to deliver what they promised with the people of Pakistan, 100 lakh houses and 5 million jobs, 10 million jobs and 5 million houses. They failed drastically. They should go for new elections. Imran Khan very vehemently and very expressively said that the constitution of Pakistan allowed me to run the country for 5 very years, and same constitution is talking that the tenure of the parliament is of 5 years. If Mr. A or Mr. B or Mr. C likes it or not, after every 5 years there should be general elections, and whoever wins the elections, he has the right to run the country for 5 years, the stipulated time which was given in the constitution of the country. And these agitations we have seen that Sheikh Sahib, let me complete a few. Okay, we have seen that Supreme Court of Pakistan, what Sheikh Sahib is saying that, or the Dr. Tughral said that there should be some legislation that these undue marches towards the capital should be stopped. Supreme Court of Pakistan has given a very clear verdict that there should be some specified place if somebody is going for agitation, because we can't stop agitations. That is the democratic right of every citizen of the country.
Is that
if he or
equivalent
she
to
sees
changing the writ of the state? Then when there are designated
you
places
must
as
not
per-
change the writ of the state.
My
You should
point-
go for those particular
Let's take
places
in
which
Mr.
were
Sheikh.
which
My
was
last
stipulated
view,
by the Supreme Court of
unfortunately, I'm
Pakistan.
short of time.
My point is that at this stage, if you announce election, 3 months interim government will come. And we have to make very important decisions with IMF and with the FATF. This interim government is not in a position to talk
It
to
won't
IMF
have the mandate to do
They
and
don't
deal
have a
with-
mandate. And what without IMF, we will facing abnormal sort of situation in economic.
Your point is well taken. Mr. Qaiser Ahmed Sheikh, member of the National Assembly, PML-N, thank you very much for your time, for being on Views on News. Dr. Tughral Yamin, senior analyst, thank you very much for your time also for being on Views on News. And Dr. Abid Abbasi, political analyst, thank you very much for your time, for being on Views on News. We really appreciate your time, all of you, your gentlemen. It was enlightening discussion indeed. And now, Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif, by appointing the 2 senior most officers in line to the top slots of the Pakistan Armed Forces, has upheld the Constitution and the democratic values. And with these appointments, all the speculations and the rumor mongering should come to an end. With this note, we come to the end of today's Views on News. Until the next one, take good care of yourselves.